What do you think about Spider-Man caught on?
You could be any kid.
Yeah.
You could be black, you could be Asian, you could be Indian, you could be anything, and imagine you were in that costume. So I think that made it relevant to everybody everywhere, and that was accidental. I mean, I don't think we planned it that way, but it was very fortuitous.
There's a current debate going around among Spider-Man fans. One question that always seems to get asked whenever something new releases, be it a comic or movie or TV show or video game: why does Peter Parker have to suffer? No Way Home being one of the most recent examples. That movie ends with the character in the worst place he's ever been at, a position that even the comics version of the character hasn't explored. And a lot of fans, such as myself, loved that decision. So why is that? Is the character ever allowed to be happy? It's a question that even Marvel as a company seems afraid to answer. In the last part, I pushed the character pretty hard, probably harder than the future movies are going to be comfortable doing. Not just to be dark and edgy, but because I think it's necessary to truly showcase what makes the Spider-Man character so special. I believe that superheroes fundamentally exist for one specific reason, and Spider-Man is no different. At the end of the day, when you take away the powers and the costumes and the silly villains, at his core, Spider-Man should always represent one thing. And today we're going to figure out what that is. So, at long last, here's my pitch for Spider-Man Final Swing. We open on a newspaper, a blurry picture from the front page of the New York Bulletin years ago, the first recorded image of the Spider-Man. We pull back to see a wall filled with similar paper clippings, everything about Spider-Man. There's photographs, artwork, unofficial merchandise, even souvenirs from different battles and villains. A piece of the Vulture's wing, one of Mysterio's drones, Shocker's glove. It's all there. A young boy, no older than 10, puts one last clipping on the wall. A front page article titled, "Where is Spider-Man?" From there, we get the Marvel logo and... Actually, wait, hang on. See, if the logo were shorter, that joke would be funnier, and this video would have come out sooner. We fade back up to see a jewelry store, as it's being robbed by masked men. A figure swings down from the skies above, arriving just in time to stop the robbers. Spider-Man, wearing his old homemade costume. Spider-Man throws out some quips and webs up the robbers before being slammed into by a man wearing a suit of armor with massive wings. The Vulture hovers over Spider-Man, taunting him. Before Spider-Man can get a word out, he's hit again by a vibrational shockwave and sent flying into a dumpster, and the Shocker steps into frame, followed by every other one of Spider-Man's greatest villains on this earth. Mysterio, the Rhino, Kraven the Hunter, and the Scorpion. Wait, this isn't right. He doesn't have time to think about it now. Spider-Man fights off this sinister six, and they all go down without too much trouble. Without a care in the world, he takes down all his old villains before sending one last punch at Scorpion. The world goes quiet as his body hits the ground without a sound. Spider-Man looks down at his hands to see a pipe. Peter wakes up, in his bed, cold and alone. He sits up, out of breath from the nightmare. He looks over at his nightstand to see the newspaper. Where is Spider-Man? Before lying back down and looking at the ceiling. It's been 2 years. He wishes it could be that easy. He wishes he could go back. But he knows he can't. We cut to the inside of a warehouse. A long table sits in the center of the room, its chairs filled with various members of organized crime. The Yakuza, the Albanians, the tracksuit mafia, even Ned Leeds, the CEO of Sex himself, is here today. Is that joke still funny? I feel like it's not funny anymore. It's been like forever. Even some lesser knowns are there, like Roderick Kingsley, a lower-end billionaire dipping his toes into the crime world, and a woman with dark hair and glasses who nobody seems to recognize. Representatives from all factions of New York's underworld have been called today. But for what? The camera pulls up to see a shadowy figure standing in the rafters, watching over the entire meeting like a ghost. A man enters the room. Lonnie Lincoln, otherwise known as Tombstone. Ever since Jameson's article, Tombstone's lost almost all of his credibility with the public. That, on top of numerous ongoing investigations about him, he's lost nearly all of his control in the city and the respect of the other crime lords. They don't treat him like the kingpin anymore. But that changes today. Tombstone places a small holographic projector on the table. A 3D image is projected for all to see, a container of black ooze that seems to move as if it's alive. The symbiote. And Tombstone plans to steal it. It's still safely within the care of the Fantastic Four after it was given to them by Spider-Man 2 years ago. That's where the special guest comes in. Reed Richards enters the room, and a hush falls over the crowd. What happened to Mr. Fantastic? Has he gone bad? Is he being blackmailed? Richards smiles before his face shifts and changes to reveal the Chameleon. I fucking love the Chameleon. He's such a unique bad guy that's so street level and grounded for Spider-Man and keeps the audience on his toes all the time. He's so much fun and I get so excited whenever I see him. And it's a shame we haven't seen him in a movie until now. No, he doesn't count. I'm not going to give Far From Home that win. The MCU's already introduced those face-changing things. So for this, we're going to be pulling from some of the modern stuff and giving him powers to differentiate him a bit. I also just realized that Mr. Fantastic can change his face too. So that reveal doesn't work as well as I thought it did. But I think it's still cool. Tombstone has hired Chameleon to steal the symbiote, to take back what was rightfully his after it was stolen from Miles Warren's lab. Owning a weapon like that, it can turn the tides on his legacy. He's holding this meeting as a show of power, to demand respect from the other crime lords, to force them to treat him like. The door opens, and Wilson Fisk enters. A presence so imposing, the entire room goes silent. Fisk says that he too is interested in the symbiote. A weapon like that would prove most useful for the future. Fisk looks to Chameleon and says he'll pay 5 times what Lincoln is paying if Chameleon steals the symbiote for him instead. Chameleon agrees because he's a little shitbag and I love him for that. And Fisk begins to walk away. Tombstone grabs him by the arm and says he'll do everything in his power to get his hands on that symbiote first. Fisk glares at Tombstone. It's all just a game of chess, Mr. Lincoln. I gotta work on my Vincent D'Onofrio impression, okay? As everyone leaves, the dark-haired woman turns a corner, and Felicia Hardy takes off her disguise, as a figure drops down in front of her from above. Daredevil stands before her, wearing a modified version of his red armor. Did you get all that? Just about. This is bad news. We need his help. No, we don't. We can handle this on our own. Felicia. We need Spider-Man. In the 2 years since Peter's worn the suit, he hasn't quit helping people. I think that would be too much of a regression of the character at this point. He still wears a single web shooter for emergencies, so if he sees someone in trouble, he'll help out and get out of there before anyone sees his face. But he doesn't go looking for trouble. He doesn't suit up, go out on patrol, or stop big-level supervillains. He leaves that to the 100 other heroes that live around the block. Sometimes there are days he forgets he even has powers. Peter's in his last semester of ESU, and has been working at Oscorp for the last 2 years. Once they fully relocated to New York from Boston, he took Harry up on his offer of a job, and the two have grown really close. Peter still feels awful about what happened, about what he did to Harry. He was in the hospital for weeks, and he still has migraines he has to take this expensive medication for. But Harry says time and time again that he's not bothered. He knows it was an accident, and if a couple pills is the price to pay for a new best friend, he's happy that it happened. Harry and MJ aren't together anymore. It was a pretty mutual breakup. The two of them were just going in different directions and it wasn't really working. And so they haven't really spoken in a while. But Harry mentions that he thinks she's back in town. She never really liked Boston that much, so she's moved back full time, and he suggests that Peter give her a call. But Peter brushes it off. He hasn't talked to her since he ditched her at the hospital, and he knows she deserves better. She deserves a good person in her life. Harry says that Peter's gonna have to let himself be happy one day, but Peter doesn't think so. To him, Peter Parker can never be happy. I feel like I might be trying to say something about the current state of the character. I don't know what, though. As Peter comes back home into his apartment, we see a figure standing in the darkness. Peter's spider sense has gotten a little rusty, and he doesn't notice the man at first. Peter Parker? Peter jumps and turns on the light to see Daredevil standing in the room. Or should I call you Spider-Man? Peter tries to brush it off, not knowing what he's talking about, but Daredevil sees right through this and throws a billy club right at Peter's head. Peter's reactions kick in, and he catches the club just in time, shooting a web out as a counter without thinking. Daredevil looks at his hand, webbed to the wall, and then back at Peter, and Peter sighs. We cut to the two of them sitting on the balcony. Daredevil figured out who Spider-Man was a few years back, a little after the events of No Way Home, so he still remembers it, but being one of the few heroes with a secret identity, he didn't come knocking out of respect. But now he needs his help. He tells Peter about Kingpin's return to New York, how Tombstone is reacting to it, and most importantly, what they're both after. The symbiote. Peter's heart drops. He'd thought that the symbiote was controlling him, when in reality it was just bringing out the worst in him. He remembers what it was like to wear it, all of that power, in return feeding off your pain and your anger. If someone like Fisk or Tombstone were to get a hold of that, no, he can't. After what happened, he can't get involved with anything like this anymore. And plus, seeing Felicia after all this time, it would bring back too many bad memories. Peter tells Daredevil that he's retired, and if he were to get involved, things would just end badly, and he'll just get more people hurt. Daredevil says he understands, probably better than anyone. He says if Peter changes his mind, to stop by Fogwell's gym at any time. Peter goes to the hospital. We're not sure why until he steps into the room of Mac Gargan, still in a coma after what happened, after what Spider-Man, what Peter did to him. Since he's in the hospital, Gargan hasn't gone to trial yet, and so Peter stops by to visit him every week. Peter's not sure what he hopes will happen, that maybe one day, magically, Gargan will just wake up and Peter can finally lift this weight off his shoulders, and things can be better again. But deep down, he knows that's never gonna happen. We learn that Peter's been paying Gargan's hospital bills for the past 2 years. Even with his new Oscorp paycheck, it's been tough. But he feels like it's the only thing he can do to make up for what he did. It's the one thing he can control. Peter's phone rings, and he sees the call is coming from the person he least expected to hear from today. J. Jonah Jameson. Peter picks up the phone, and Jameson tells him that Peter has to stop by his office. Something about an old paycheck. Peter hangs up and groans. After paying Gargan's newest bill, he needs all the money he can get right now, but he dreads even the idea of going back there. Not only is Jameson just going to give him a hard time about leaving, but he hasn't stepped foot into that building since that day. We cut to Wilson Fisk and Chameleon, sitting in a car as they drive through the city. Trying to pitch something that's so far into this hypothetical future is really difficult because Kingpin and Daredevil are clearly going to be big players of this next phase or whatever. And since we don't know what Marvel's going to do with the characters, it's really difficult to sort of plan out an arc or figure out where they're going to be at by the time this movie starts. Like how Fisk got out of prison and if he's still on the run from the law, or what the deal with Vanessa is and how that's impacting him. I'd like to see them adapt the Mayor Fisk stories from some of the newer comics, but since we don't know what their plan is, it's a little harder to go into detail with his story. So for this, as just as a placeholder, Kingpin's arc is going to be that he wants a McRib. And Daredevil's like, no, we can't let that happen. We can't let Wilson Fisk get a McRib, or else Hell's Kitchen's going to be burned to the ground. In spite of his Hawaiian shirt, though, we can still assume that Fisk is extremely wealthy, and that wealth and that power is allowing Fisk to take over Tombstone's territory, buying out all the different businesses and properties, creating a monopoly to drive Lincoln away. Pretty soon, he'll be charging for exclusive content on his new subscription service, Kingpin Plus, and can cancel projects when they're basically finished for a tax cut. Can you tell I'm still mad? Chameleon asks Fisk what the plan is, but Fisk says not to worry too much. There's more factors at play here than just the two of them. Fisk pulls out a case and opens it to reveal a fine, ornate chess set. All in good time. Peter arrives at the Daily Bugle, rebuilt after Scorpion's attack. He does his best not to let the memories of that day come back to him. He walks through, not acknowledging any of his old co-workers or anybody, but he does notice that things seem different. Peter steps into Jameson's office, prepared for the worst. Jonah welcomes Peter in. He says that they were going through some old paperwork and he noticed that Peter never got sent his paycheck for the last month he worked there. Technically, he's not supposed to be doing this. Things are kind of tight right now with the construction and the rebranding, but Jonah knew it was the right thing to do. He knows it's not much, but they're trying their best to be better here. Peter's taken aback by how nice Jonah is. Jameson tells Peter that he misses having him around. He knows he didn't show it very often, but he really respected Peter and he wishes he could have stayed longer. The Daily Bugle is undergoing a massive restructuring. The piece about Tombstone ended up sparking a lot of hope in Jonah and the rest of the team, changing from the tabloid bullshit that it used to be into real and genuine journalism. And after 2 years, Jonah's finally stepping down as editor-in-chief. He says that his replacement is even the father of one of Peter's friends, Robbie Robertson. Robertson has a history with Tombstone, so Jonah trusts that he won't hold back. The Bugle's hurt a lot of people, and Jonah wasn't able to see it until it was too late, but he's doing his best to fix things, and that's all he can do. That's the one thing he can control. Peter's quiet. The one thing he can control. Before Peter leaves, Jonah asks a favor. He pulls out a piece of paper and writes down an address on it. If Peter is at all free on Thursday, if he could just drop by that address, that would really mean a lot. Peter takes the paper and puts it in his pocket. We cut to Daredevil and Felicia in Fogwell's gym. The door opens and Peter steps in. All right. One last time. Tombstone sits in his office, looking out the window over New York. His home, his city. He's earned this. And he's not gonna let Fisk come back in and take it all away from him again. Aside from spectacular, Tombstone has very rarely been the big kingpin of crime that I've been making him in this trilogy. I think it'd be really interesting to explore this man who, by all means, is ill-equipped for this kind of power. He wanted to be king more than anything, and was handed it on a silver platter by being the toughest guy on the block, but he failed time and time again, and his end is just over the horizon. How does he react to that? What does that desperation drive him to do? On the table beside him is an ornate chess set. After everything he's been through, he deserves this power. He needs it. He's going to do whatever he can to keep it. We cut to Peter, Daredevil, and Felicia. We learn that they talked to Mr. Fantastic, and Reed wasn't willing to give them the symbiote. He doesn't trust Daredevil, and he's confident that the Baxter Building security systems will be enough to stop any thief, which might be true, if not for Chameleon. And so we have to steal the symbiote before Fisk or Tombstone have the opportunity, and then we can destroy it. The Baxter Building is holding a charity fundraiser tonight. It's a personal cause for Reed Richards. It's about victims of spaghettification. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. And it's the best chance they have on getting into the building and taking the symbiote. The best part? It's a costume party. Daredevil goes to the store and brings them each different costumes they can wear as disguises, and he hands Peter a crappy Spider-Man Halloween mask. Maybe there could be like a joke about how Matt didn't recognize that it was a Spider-Man mask. I think that could be funny. We learn that Felicia is still mad at Peter for what he did. She trusted him and was vulnerable with him, and he stabbed her in the back. I think it'd be an interesting arc for Felicia to see how Peter's grown and learn to forgive him for what happened, in the same way that he has to forgive himself, and they become sort of platonic friends by the end of it. I think it could be interesting if maybe in the past couple of years, Felicia's sort of fallen into crime a little bit more than she has in the past couple of movies, and so her arc for this movie could be coming out of that darkness and becoming a little bit more of an anti-hero again. And so from here, we get a fun little heist segment as our heroes try to steal the symbiote from the Baxter building. I've had Black Cat as a supporting lead this whole trilogy and haven't really gotten to explore her skills as a thief, so this could be a good opportunity to do that. A lot of heist type movies have crazy gadgets and communicators and shit like that, but that's not really what Daredevil is, so I think it'd be really cool to have this sort of low-tech heist that just showcases everybody's skills. I was also going to have a scene where MJ is working at the party as a bartender or something, and she and Peter start to reconnect, but this video is getting really long, so you can just fill in the blanks with that, and a lot of things. If I gloss over some things, that's why. As all heists do, things start to go wrong. Felicia and Daredevil get held up dealing with Chameleon, and Peter has no choice but to steal the symbiote himself. The symbiote is being held in a container that requires a 4-digit passcode to unlock. He guesses at the code with no luck, and that's when the door opens and his stomach drops. Peter looks to see Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, clearly not sure what he walked in on. Listen, it's not what it looks like. It looks like you're stealing the alien slime while dressed like a cheap Spider-Man ripoff. Okay, it's exactly what it looks like. Johnny is silent. He and Peter have talked before during the last big event crossover, Secret Wars or whatever, and they had always gotten along pretty well. You're really him, aren't you? Yeah. Are you back? No. No, I'm not. Johnny pauses. I can get you 5 minutes. After that, you're on your own. Before he walks out of the room. Peter lets out a sigh of relief. 5 minutes. That's not that much time. He guesses every possible combination he can think of. Birthdays, important years, anything that Reed Richards might pick that could be important for the fantastic... Wait a minute. Beep, 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 beep. The safe opens. Smartest man in the world, my ass. As Peter makes his escape, he's not looking where he's going, and he slams into a wall. No, not a wall. A man. Wilson Fisk turns to look at Peter in his cheap Halloween mask, holding a briefcase with one of the most powerful weapons in the world. Interesting choice of costume. Oh, that's fucking Randy Savage. That's not, oh no, that was Bonesaw. Peter is speechless. For years, fuck, it's Randy Savage again. For years, I read about the Spider-Man. I've always respected him. I've encountered my fair share of masked vigilantes, and nobody ever did it quite like him. Shame about what happened. Shame he's gone now. That's when another behemoth of a man steps in front of him. Tombstone. The two billionaires exchange words and vague threats, and Peter slithers away, his spider sense firing on all cylinders. So much that he doesn't notice the tracking device Tombstone placed in his coat pocket. The Chameleon, after being held up by Black Cat and Daredevil, reaches the safe room with ease. To see that it's already been cracked and the symbiote has been stolen, Tombstone stands at the door and makes him an offer. Back at their base, Peter looks at the symbiote through a microscope, trying to study it some more and figuring out how they can destroy it. He looks at the goop. It's almost calling to him, like it's an old friend. Without thinking, he reaches his hand out, and it slowly reaches back. Might not be the best idea. Daredevil steps in, startling Peter, and he pulls back. Come on, let's go grab a bite. We cut to the two of them, sitting on the building's roof, overlooking the city, eating some hot dogs from a cart down the block. The two of them exchange stories and compare villains, and Daredevil asks Peter about what happened 2 years ago. Believe me, I know a thing or two about guilt. Not like this. Go ahead, try me. Peter tells Daredevil everything about the symbiote, Scorpion, and the mistake that he made. A mistake that he made not wearing a symbiote or nanotech armor, but his red and blue suit. The last time that happened was my uncle. He was like a father to me. When I was a kid, I was just starting out. I screwed up and I got him killed for it. After that, I made a promise that nobody would ever get hurt like that ever again. But now, after Gargan, I did it again. I broke that promise. I violated what Spider-Man is supposed to be. I knew I couldn't let that happen again. I can't let anyone else get hurt because of me. And that's why I'm Spider-Man no more. Daredevil is silent as he looks over the New York skyline. I knew somebody a long time ago who taught me a lot about life. About facing my fears and being brave enough to forgive. To forgive others, but more importantly, to forgive ourselves. Our flaws aren't what define us, Peter. We can't change what we've done. All we can do is move forward. Daredevil takes a moment and he removes his mask, and Peter looks to see a surprisingly familiar face. Matt Murdock. Not that he'd remember anything about that. Matt smiles at Peter and puts his hand on his shoulder. We're all just trying to do more good than harm, and I'd say you're ahead on that score. Peter can't help but chuckle. What? Nothing. Just, you seem like you'd be a really good lawyer. Daredevil is a show that has a lot of emotional importance to me, and a lot of that is because of Charlie Cox's performance as Matt Murdock. I honestly put off watching season 3 for so long because I didn't want it to end. It's a show about all these real and painful human emotions: fear, grief, revenge, guilt, and rising above that pain to be the best man you can possibly be. We've been asking for Spider-Man and Daredevil to cross over for years, and we got that a little bit in No Way Home, but I think the character deserves more than just a cameo. He's someone with so much wisdom and experience and pain who can help Peter grow as a character in ways that a lot of others can't. Not as a mentor or a father figure, but as a friend. We cut to a New York street. Tombstone's office resides high in a tower over the people and businesses down on the ground. A black car pulls up to the curb, and Wilson Fisk steps out, followed by men wearing black. They spread out across the area, mysterious devices in hand, as Fisk looks at the skyscraper above and grins, planning something. Some time passes, and Peter runs some more tests on the symbiote. He's found that sound, heat, and other vibrations seem to hurt it, but he needs to do more research. That's when Felicia steps in. She says that she knows a guy who might have the resources they need to take care of this thing. Peter hands her the case with the suit before his eyes widen, and his spider sense sets off 1,000 alarms in his head. Peter shoots a web at Felicia, pinning her hand to the wall. Realizing it at the same time, Matt grabs his billy club and holds it against her throat. The two of them are silent. Oh, you are good. Felicia laughs as her face changes into the chameleon. The wall explodes, and Tombstone comes barging into the room, holding Felicia hostage. He tells Peter to give him the symbiote, or he'll break her neck like a twig. Daredevil tries to fight against him, but Tombstone just tosses him aside like it's nothing. Peter, with no other option, hands Lincoln the case. As Tombstone escapes, Matt realizes something. Fisk hasn't made any kind of real play for the symbiote this entire time, just Tombstone. There must be something else going on here. That's when Peter notices the tracking device that Tombstone put in his jacket pocket. He starts to panic. He should have seen it sooner. He should have figured things out faster. And because of him, Tombstone has the symbiote, and he's going to use it to hurt even more people. Matt tries to calm Peter down, but Peter doesn't listen. He grabs his things and leaves them all alone. The two of them look over the destroyed, compromised hideout. There's something bigger at play here. Something that Fisk is planning that neither of them have caught on to. Peter looks at his phone and sees MJ's number. He could call her right now and talk to her. Ask her out, be together again, be happy. But he doesn't. Instead, he returns to the hospital and he sits in Gargan's room once again. He watches over him, his biggest mistake. Living proof that Peter Parker is a bad person. Proof that he can never be and should never be Spider-Man ever again. We cut to Tombstone in his office with Chameleon as he places the case containing the symbiote on his desk. Tombstone smiles. Finally, he has it. The one thing that can give him the leg up on Fisk and remain the kingpin of New York City. Lincoln opens the case to see nothing. It's completely empty. Enraged, he throws the case to the ground. The symbiote must have escaped somehow, but where is it? We cut back to Peter as black goop slithers out of his bag and onto the ground. The symbiote slowly inches its way towards him, reaching and reaching until it notices someone else. Peter puts his hands in his pockets and feels something. A small piece of paper with writing on it. Oh my god, he almost forgot. Jonah's favor. Peter figures if he's going to keep screwing up as Spider-Man, if he's going to keep ruining things for everybody, he might as well stay true to Peter Parker's word and fulfill that favor. Do at least one thing right. As Peter leaves, the symbiote has a different idea. Parker betrayed it. It gave him power, gave him meaning, and he threw it away. The symbiote stays in the room, working its way into the hospital bed. Mac Gargan opens his eyes and takes a deep breath. We cut back to Matt and Felicia in Fogwell's gym, which is now destroyed. This place that was so important to Matt and his history is gone now, and it's a change that he has to embrace. There we go! There's an arc for Daredevil. That works. That could work, right? Embracing change. That's always a good one. The two of them start piecing things together about Fisk and what his plans really are. He never wanted the symbiote. He was just using it as a way to distract Tombstone from what he was really doing. This whole time, Fisk has been planting bombs on the city blocks surrounding Tombstone's office, buying up the properties just to destroy them in a violent show of power. As this is happening, Tombstone will be in his office, and Fisk can finally make a move and be Kingpin once again, framing Lincoln for the destruction. It's a plan that's going to destroy so many lives and kill so many people unless they're able to put a stop to it. As of of late, I've noticed that Marvel's been treating their street level heroes kind of weirdly lately. A lot of traditionally grounded characters like Moon Knight and Miss Marvel are being retooled to be larger in scale, with powers that let them stand toe-to-toe with more traditional Avengers, and their stories are reflecting that. This is most likely because Marvel wants these characters in the crossovers, but also wants it to be believable that they don't instantly become a red streak on the pavement. We'll see how these shows handle Daredevil and those characters, but I think not utilizing the street level is a huge misstep. That side of the universe adds perspective to the world, showing the people on the ground level and how they react to the more outlandish aspects. But more importantly, these stories show that you don't have to be a billionaire with a suit of armor, or a Norse god, or a super soldier from the 40s, or a green rage monster to be a hero. You just have to be the best person you can be. And a lot of times, that's enough. Peter knocks on the front door of the address JJ told him about. It opens and he sees a woman. Oh, good, you're here. Before Peter can reply, the woman grabs his hand and pulls him into the house. He's in his room right now. I haven't told him anything about you or anything. Oh, by the way, here's your suit. You can get changed in the bathroom. She hands Peter a box. He looks inside to see yet another cheap Spider-Man Halloween costume. It's his birthday today, and he's always wanted to meet Spider-Man. Peter opens the door to the bedroom. Inside, he sees walls and walls of merchandise, newspapers, and souvenirs. From his first appearance to rumors online, everything there is to collect about Spider-Man. A boy sits in the room, pinning another newspaper to the wall. Are you Johnny? The boy looks over at Peter, wearing this garbage knockoff costume from the bargain bin of a Halloween store, and laughs. You're the third guy this week who's come in here wearing that costume. Plus, you're too short. Johnny turns back around and starts organizing his collection. You can leave. I don't want you to waste your time. Speechless, Peter begrudgingly takes off the mask, turns, and starts to walk away before stopping. He knows that he's not trying to show it, but Peter sees how disappointed he's made this kid. What if I knew Spider-Man? Johnny's eyes light up. What? You know Spider-Man? Oh, no, wait, that's so cool. What's he like? He's pretty cool. He's kind of a wreck, and his costume smells really bad, but, yeah, you know, he's pretty cool. Well, where is he? I don't know. Oh, do you know why he left? Peter pauses for a second. He said he did something really bad, and he thinks he'll just hurt more people. So he's going away for a while. Johnny is silent. Peter looks around the room. This is, quite the collection. Johnny smiles, as if the mere thought of Spider-Man raises his spirits. Right? I have everything. Every paper, every article, even stuff from his villains. Like, check this out. Johnny opens a drawer and shows Peter one of the Shocker's vibration gauntlets. I got this from this really sketchy website. Mom got mad at me for using her credit card and said it was something like evidence. I don't know about that, but look at how cool it is. Johnny continues to show Peter the rest of his collection. They talk about all the costumes, villains, other heroes, anything they could possibly talk about with regards to Spider-Man. Johnny shows Peter the last newspaper. This is the last time anyone saw him. They say he went to fight the Scorpion and that he hurt him pretty bad, but it was an accident. He didn't have a choice. Scorpion was going to hurt a lot of people. And is that what he thinks he did wrong? I don't know. Peter is silent. He thinks about that night. He thinks about what it was like to hold that pipe in his hand, all of that anger, all of that rage, what he did. Tears start to well in his eyes. Johnny, do you forgive Spider-Man for what he did? Yeah, of course. Spider-Man's the best. He just made a mistake, but he's not a bad person for it or anything. What would you say to Spider-Man if he were here right now? I would want to give him a hug, and I would tell him that he's just the greatest, and that I'm always going to love him no matter what. He'll always be my favorite, and I miss him. And I like this new suit way more than his old ones. Johnny looks to see Peter, tears rolling down his face, but smiling. Are you okay? Yeah, sorry. You're a really smart kid. You know that? Tombstone sits in his office, alone. He's failed. He's lost the symbiote. He's lost his money, his supporters. Everything's been taken from him. He's nothing now. That's when he hears a voice. Long time no see, boss. Mac Gargan steps out of the shadows, completely healthy. Gargan? You're awake? Oh, I'm more than awake. We're better than ever. The monster grabs Tombstone by the throat. They say they should kill Tombstone for what he did. He used Gargan and left them to rot. But Tombstone, with his last ounce of breath, says that the three of them, can make a deal. They all have something in common, after all. We cut to Felicia and Matt as they make their way to downtown New York. They don't have much time before the bombs start going off, so they have to focus on evacuating and saving people as much as they can. Once everyone's safe, they can focus on Tombstone and Kingpin. As this is happening, we see Fisk and Lincoln in the office above the city. The two are calm but cautious as they sit at the table in front of each other. Without a word, the ornate chess set is brought out and placed in front of them. They'd each come to an agreement. One game, winner takes all. No mess, no violence, just business. But neither of them are particularly good sports. The heroes start evacuating the area, getting people out of harm's way. It might be fun if we can also get some help from other street level characters like Moon Knight or Ms. Marvel or Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or not you, anyone but you. You get the fuck. Fisk and Lincoln continue to play their game of chess in silence. Fisk takes a piece and takes out Lincoln's queen, and we hear explosions in the distance. The bombs start to go off. Buildings in the area begin to collapse. The heroes do everything they can, but it seems like hope is lost. As a building starts to crumble with people inside, they hear a sound. In the collapsed building, a young man is trapped and unable to move. That's when a figure steps in, grabs a hold of the rubble, and lifts it over his head. Spider-Man is here. The young man looks at the hero in awe. Are you back? Yeah, I'm back. The billionaires continue to play their game, unconcerned with the death and destruction down below. Just two men who think they're gods playing a game with people's lives. The game progresses, and Fisk is on the precipice of winning. Tombstone begins to sweat. No, it can't end like this. After everything he's done, it's not his time yet. In an act of rage and desperation, Tombstone flips the table and lunges at Fisk, their demeanor changing from calm businessmen into wild animals fighting over food. With Spider-Man's help, the heroes are able to turn the tides and evacuate everybody out of the area. The other street-level heroes agree to take care of things on the ground. They just need to take down Kingpin and Tombstone. Peter and Matt fight their way up the skyscraper and end up in the corridor right before the main office, to see almost a dozen of Tombstone and Kingpin's bodyguards blocking the path, and the two of them get ready to fight. Can you tell I tried learning Blender for this one? Is it obvious? Tombstone and Kingpin continue to fight in the office, trading blow after blow, throwing each other through marble and stone walls. That desperation, the anger, it's all coming out in this battle. Spider-Man and Daredevil break down the doors and put a stop to the fight. The crime lords look at each other and pause their fight to take care of the costume freaks. The two split up, Daredevil taking on Kingpin and Peter fighting Tombstone. Fisk and Matt have some dialogue together. Again, I don't know where they're gonna be at after their new shows. Maybe Kingpin talks about the McRib, who knows? Mr. Murdoch, when I was a boy, the McRib was available year-round. It was beautiful. But now it's only for a limited time. I was in the drive-thru with my beautiful Vanessa, and I asked for 2 McRibs to go, and they embarrassed me. Ronald McDonald will pay for this. That's what he talks about, right? Peter fights off Tombstone, and the two are evenly matched. Peter's grown a lot in the years since their first encounter, but Tombstone starts to get the upper hand over Peter until Felicia leaps in from above and helps with the fight. Peter and Felicia look at each other and nod, concluding that arc of forgiveness that I was talking about. Where's the symbiote, Lincoln? Tombstone pauses before he begins to laugh. Oh, I thought you knew. An old friend of ours stopped by, said something about fulfilling a promise, but finally going after who you love. Peter stops in his tracks. No. It's not possible. It can't be him. Gargan's awake? And with the symbiote? The world around Peter goes dark. Every feeling floods over him all at once. His fear, his anger, his guilt, his sadness. It's all coming back to him at the mere thought of Matt Gargan and all the pain he's caused. That's when a hand is placed on his shoulder. Matt looks at Peter and with a voice as cool as ice says, "Go. We can take it from here." Matt, what if I can't do it? You can, and you will. I know it. You got this, Spider-Man. Peter leaps out the window and begins to swing through the city. Someone he loves, but who could that mean? Felicia's dealing with Tombstone, and there's no way Gargan knows about MJ being in town, and it's surely not Harry. Oh no, he wouldn't. We cut to Johnny's bedroom to see the boy curled in a corner, terrified. On the other end of the room, Johnny's mother is unconscious, and Mac Gargan sits in a chair, eating a piece of raw meat from the kitchen. We learn that the first thing Gargan did after waking up was follow Peter to this house. Gargan doesn't know how Peter knows these people, but frankly, it doesn't matter. All Gargan wants is to hurt them. To hurt Peter Parker. Peter rushes across the rooftops, swinging through the city faster than he's ever before. No, not Johnny. Anyone but Johnny. His legs are burning, his arms are weak, but he can't stop. He can't let Johnny down. Johnny, with a weak voice, calls out to Gargan, saying that Spider-Man's gonna show up, and Spider-Man's gonna beat him. Gargan chuckles. They stand up and slowly walk towards Johnny. Spider-Man's not coming. The hero that he's worshipped for so long never cared about him. Johnny knocks a bookcase over, trying to catch Gargan by surprise, but a tendril of black ooze shoots out of Gargan's back, knocking it to the side and wrapping itself around Johnny's throat and mouth. The boy begins to suffocate, his screams muffled by the alien slime. Where's your buddy Spider-Man now? You wanted me? Spider-Man smashes through the window and lands in the bedroom. You got me. Gargan smiles, releasing Johnny to the ground. Took you long enough. He's just a kid. Let him go. This is between you and me, Gargan. Oh, on the contrary. A piece of symbiote detaches from Gargan, pinning Johnny to the wall. We want him to watch. Watch us tear you limb from limb, rip you apart and eat your insides. Darkness envelops Gargan, and a massive, horrifying monster stands in front of Spider-Man and Johnny.
We want him to watch you die.
Peter is terrified. This thing is him. It's everything he's always been. A being of pure anger and hatred. A dark, twisted image of what Spider-Man is supposed to be. Poison to his life and everyone around him. Venom. Spider-Man goes to save Johnny before being attacked by Venom. Peter tries to fight against the monster, but is completely overpowered. Not only is the spider sense not working, but the symbiote is feeding off of Gargan's hate and anger for Peter, making the monster that much more deadly. Spider-Man is knocked to the ground as Venom sends a tendril into the nearby wall and pulls out a piece of broken pipe. Venom laughs as they slam the pipe into Peter's body with a thunderous crack. Again and again, over and over and over again, until Spider-Man's body lies still and motionless. Peter changes out of the Halloween costume and returns it to Johnny's mom. That's when he sees a familiar face. J. Jonah Jameson. He's a good kid, right? Yeah, he really is. My little John Jameson. You know, he wants to be an astronaut. I've never been prouder. Peter pauses. Why did you have me come here? JJ hesitates. I wanted you to see something. I know I haven't been the greatest guy in the world. I've made a lot of mistakes, got a lot of people hurt. I was so angry after my wife's death, and I blamed it on everyone else but myself. Spider-Man, mostly. And then what happened? And then I met Joan. Jonah looks to Johnny's mother. She is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She came in, helped me raise Johnny. The two of them have made me a new man. That's great, Mr. Jameson, but that doesn't answer your question. I know, I'm getting there. It's just, Johnny, he's not doing well. Cancer. We caught it last summer. Since then, the doctor said it was only a matter of time, but he's still here, still with us, because of Spider-Man. Thinking of Spider-Man is the one thing that's keeping him going. The one thing that gives him hope. He needs that symbol. He needs that hero. Jonah hands Peter a box. You gave me this a long time ago, and I think it's time I give it back for Johnny. Peter opens the box to see a fabric of striking red and shining blue. A costume. His costume. The real one. He looks up at JJ. How did you know? Jameson smirks. Listen, kid, I'm not as dumb as I look. Peter smiles, tears in his eyes. He wraps his arms around Jameson in a hug. Welcome back, Spider-Man. Peter opens his eyes. His heart's pounding. His bones are broken. Venom slams the pipe into Peter again and again with no remorse. But Peter won't give up. He can't. Peter shoots out his hand and catches the pipe. For his city, he slowly begins to stand up, fighting back against the strength of the monster. For his friends, Peter cries out, tears in his eyes. For Johnny, Peter crushes the pipe in his hand and punches at Venom, sending them flying back into the wall. With Venom stunned, Peter grabs a hold of something to his right. Venom lunges at Spider-Man, who holds out Shocker's glove and sends a shockwave right at the monster. Venom screams as the symbiote is being killed by the vibrations. It begins to leave Gargan and attempts to slither away, but Peter keeps blasting it and blasting it until the hate is no more. Gargan, with all of his remaining strength, tries to throw a punch at Peter, who webs his arms and legs to the wall, incapacitating him without hurting him. At the same time, we see that Matt and Felicia are getting the upper hand over their opponents as well, and are able to take them down once and for all. Peter checks on Johnny, freeing him from the wall, making sure he's safe. He's a little banged up, but he's gonna be fine. Everything's going to be fine. As Tombstone and Fisk are taken into custody, Matt can't help but wonder something. Someone must have tipped off Fisk and Tombstone about the symbiote, given them the idea. Who set all of this into motion? Is there another player at work here? We cut to Rikers Island prison at night, a few weeks later, where we see Tombstone sitting in a cell, awaiting his trial. A guard walks up to his cell and stops. Before Tombstone can ask what's going on, a bullet is sent straight into his skull, killing him instantly. The chameleon smiles before walking away without a trace. Cut back to Tombstone's old office that same night as Chameleon returns from the prison. A shadowy figure is sitting in the chair in front of him, the new kingpin of crime. It's done. No loose ends. The figure chuckles. Good, good. He turns in his chair, and we see a man wearing a suit of armor and the mask of a goblin. Now the real fun can begin. We cut to 6 months later. Peter sits on a park bench, watching the sun rise over the city. Over his city. Is this seat taken? Peter looks up to see J. Jonah Jameson and smiles. You know I've always got room for a friend. Jameson sits down next to Peter. The two of them watch the sunrise and just talk. Johnny is doing better. By this time next year, he'll be 100% cancer-free. The doctors think it's some kind of miracle. Jonah asks about Peter and how he's been doing. We show Peter ringing a doorbell, holding flowers. MJ Watson opens the door and smiles. I think I'm happy. I mentioned before about the debate among Spider-Man fans about whether or not Peter Parker should be allowed to be happy. It seems like a simple question. You'd think that the fans of this character would want to see him thrive, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Spider-Man as a character is about enduring everything life has to throw at you, the good and the bad, getting knocked down time and time again, and no matter what, getting back up to keep fighting and to keep trying to be the best person you can be. And so when his life is going great, when he doesn't face that hardship, it doesn't feel like the character and it can feel empty. But at the same time, if there's never that moment of relief and the character is essentially just a tragedy, then what's the point? And so the key to Spider-Man, in my opinion, is to throw everything at him, the good and the bad. His friends hate him, his family doesn't trust him, he can't keep a girlfriend, he can't pay rent. Every possible thing to knock this character flat on his ass to the degree that no reasonable person should endure. But then, there's one moment. One glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel that makes it all worth it. Because then, after everything he's been through, after all the pain and loss and tragedy in his life, when Peter Parker gets knocked down, it makes it all the more special when he gets back up again. We cut to Spider-Man swinging under the glow of the rising sun. He swings low, close to the ground, and the people in the street call out to him, cheer for him, glad to have Spider-Man back. Oh, I've got to get going. First day and all. By the way, tell Joan I said thank you. For the millionth time, thank you. Jameson laughs. She does know how to pull a few strings. Still don't know why you're doing this instead of that fancy gig you had with Oscorp. I don't know. I think this is where I'm meant to be. My name is Mr. Parker. Peter writes his name on the blackboard and turns to face the classroom. And I'm your new science teacher. A young man runs into the classroom. You're late, Mr. Peter looks at his attendance sheet. Morales? Miles Morales, out of breath, says, Right, sorry, won't happen again. But you know, they say time is relative, so. Peter does his best not to laugh, and then he feels something, his spider sense, warning him about something. No, not a warning. He looks at this boy, Miles, and he can see that he feels it too. There's something familiar. What the fuck? The goal of this whole made-up trilogy has been to get the character from point A to point B. That journey of self-discovery is really important to me and really important to the character, and it almost justifies this whole 6-month-long project that's basically just glorified fanfiction. Spider-Man has always been a relatable character. Since his inception, he's been meant to serve as a stand-in for readers who felt they didn't fit in, to simply reach out and say, we get it. These are stories that people from all different backgrounds, genders, ethnicities, sexualities, disabilities, all walks of life can find something special and human that relates to them and their struggles. And that's why the character needs that light. That's why he needs to find love or make a friend or have a family or even just be given a slice of chocolate cake. Because the person reading his stories, watching his movies, playing his games, or watching reruns of his cartoons on a Saturday afternoon, they might be going through that same exact pain and same exact darkness in their life. And they need to be reminded that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that they can keep getting back up. There's one thing above all else Spider-Man is supposed to represent. And I hope that you figured it out. Oh, kept you waiting on this one. You see why it took so long? This is a long video. This is a big video. I know I've left some sequel baiting and open mysteries in this, but I don't know if I plan on making a fourth part to this or a next trilogy. I think that's a little too much. That's a little too far into the future for my liking. Especially when the fourth movie's not even out. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you liked this video, really would mean a lot if you hit the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to Alto the Sting, Cabbage Boy, Cassidy Bond, Chicken McDoofus, Cole Soup, Cosmic Tragedy, what the fuck is that? D13J12, Damp Towels, Firebird Angel, Iron Ninja, Jonah, Corey's Not Fresh, Lime Spice XL, Logan Triplet Films, Mateus Texeria Souza, I'm really sorry if I messed that up, Ryder Harrison, Simply Dan, Skull Dude, Stefan, The Artsy Fartsy Guy, Tim Neufeld, Tyler Goodrich, Yobi Perkins, Zachary Stonebreaker, Zero to Hero 148, and ZZ Toasty for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon and putting up with me. This is Boy17 coming at you live. Trans rights, Black Lives Matter. Be responsible, everybody. I'm really tired. I'm going to take a 2-week long nap, and I'll see you around.